Hey guys, it's Katie at scrappinkaty.ctmh.com, and today is day 13 of Christy's Beautiful Life 30 Days of Sketches, where we feature a sketch each day in March.
So here is a look at the sketch for day 13. I'm loving the paint strips, or the paint, what's that called? Paint drips, paint flow. I'm loving that. I'm loving the different layers around the square photo. Just really kind of excited about this one. And then, I don't know, you barely can tell some newsprint here and there. So I have pulled recently. My brother, who lives in my mother's house, is kind of took that over, and he is cleaning out some storage, and so he found a whole bunch of our older family photos, and so he separated them, gave some to me, some to my sister, and so this is me as a 2-year-old. And I kind of love the retro colors. I'm going to be using that. And then I've pulled out the mix-ins from March and April because, you know, this kind of matches my shirt. Then we've got a fern that matches whatever table we're sitting right there. And then, of course, the brown is right there. So... and then if I wanted to bring in Christmas, I do have red, because I don't know if y'all can see, but there's a Christmas tree back behind there. And then I've also pulled in a couple of old rub-ons. Now this is the newsprint, and I think I want to mimic that newsprint up there on that layout base. And so we've got alphabet. That would just be perfect to do that. And then I have pulled out the Parlor Velvet. I mean, because nothing screams 1977 more than velvet rub-ons, right? So I'm just, these are just some things. I'm on my lunch break, so I thought I would grab a few things. I hope I can make it work in time. I hope I can make it work in the time that I have. So let's see what I can do.
So I am going to use a background stamp and then some almond ink, which is pretty similar to that brown for that pattern paper. Now this background stamp is just a whole lot of little hearts, but remember I told you I love that newsprint, so I'm going to bring in the actual alphabet that's newsprint, but I definitely wanted to mimic the newsprint up at the top. So I just tore a piece of copy paper to kind of get it where it's not just squared off. It looks more natural. And then I'm going to trim this photo as much as I wanted to leave the corners rounded, just so it would stay true to that era. I mentioned it before, I'm just not a corner rounded photo person. So I squared that off, matted it on some French vanilla cardstock, which is the same color cardstock I'm using for my base. And then I am going to start matting it on the 3 pattern papers. Now I've chosen that yellow and then that green and then that brown, again, for the reasons of them kind of matching some of the colors in the photo. So right here, I am just cutting a 6.5-inch square, 5.5 and 4.5, and then that will allow me to kind of alternate the squares. If you recall on the sketch, they're not straight on the layout. And then I'm taking that same almond ink with a mini blending tool, and not only am I going over the edge of the paper, but I'm also trying to sponge on the top edge, if that makes sense, just to kind of make it look more vintagey, more dingy. I debated edge distressing, you know, where I kind of tear the edges of those squares. I debated doing that, and then I thought, no, I don't want to do that. I want to keep them pretty straight, but I definitely want a vintage or a dingy feel. Now back to those paint splatters or drips that I really loved. I did love them, but as you probably know, that just doesn't really go with the photo. So I definitely wanted some sort of mixed media element. So I have just pulled out some of my sprays and then just dotted that all over the base page kind of pretty tight to the grouping where the photo will be. There was a little rogue piece off to the right, but all in all, it really ends up looking good in the end. So I just dried that real quick, and then I am going to put some foam adhesive on the back of my photo and then start building my layers. Now I'm going with that brown on the bottom, then that fern, and then that yellow. And that's a pattern that I really haven't known what to call it. I've been calling it paint strokes, I believe. But I love that pattern. In fact, this is the current mix-in that just went live March 1st. And I have already purchased 3 packages and I've used a lot. It's definitely going to be one of those mix-in collections that I want to keep in my stash and I want to use a lot. So you can see there that I decided to bring in some tissue paper. Now, tissue paper is one of those things that I got from Missy Whidden. I've talked about her before and how I love her thread jumbles. I also love how she uses tissue paper to kind of add a softness to layouts. And as you can see here, it does. I love how it allows you to see the background layers, but like I said, it's just a softness there. And so there are 2 layers right behind my photo and then one between that fern piece and then that brown bottom piece. So right here, I am just cutting out the date 1977, and this is that newsprint rub-on. So I'm just going to space these just to see how far over I need to start. I like that. So I'm going to apply these actually one by one, just with that popsicle stick. It's going to go pretty fast, and I love how this newsprint rub-on actually rubbed over those little paint splatters. And then here in a second, I'm going to add the title Christmas off to the left, and they rub really nicely over the that heart stamp that I used. So I'm just going to find the letters of Christmas in here and cut those apart. Now, if you remember rub-ons, there was a time where I think I rubbed on everything. It's kind of like paper tearing. I would go show my husband and he'd be like, let me guess, this is another rub-on. So I'm surprised I even have any rub-ons left, but I do, and I'm so glad, especially for this layout. So I've just counted all my letters, put them up top, trying to see where I need to start them. And then I'm going to bring out my T-ruler because that bottom square is not straight. I wanted to make sure that my C was going to be high enough so when I get all the way down to the S, that S doesn't run into that bottom square. Hindsight, I didn't even have to worry about that because I am trying to space them as close as the 1977. And even though Christmas is a long word, they were kind of squunched together. Not squunched isn't a bad thing, but it didn't take up near as much room as I thought, which in the end is a good thing because I end up adding an embellishment off to that right side of that last S. So I'm just going to finish up here. Again, you can see that even though I've sped this up, it's not taking long, and I'm surprised because those velvet rub-ons, I did try that off camera and I just couldn't get them to release. So I'm really surprised that this newsprint rub-ons, even as old as they are, really came off as well as they did. So I've just pulled out a stash of some chipboard pieces, and lo and behold, I did find a Christmas little cubby in here, and it is full of craft chipboard pieces, which I think the craft really plays well with the vintage feel that I'm going with. So I just sorted all those into kind of floral pieces, presents, trees, so I can try and see what I want to use. Now, I debated cutting a lot of this stuff out. Now, even though I sped it up, I really debated cutting all of this out because, like I've told you before, embellishing probably is the thing that takes the longest for me. But I thought I would leave it in here so you can kind of see my process. So if you are new to scrapbooking and you're thinking, there's no way that it takes this long to put on embellishments. I'm here to tell you that it does. It's a process that I actually have grown to love. It is a process that sometimes I have to come back to. So if you are starting out scrapbooking, don't think that you can sit and make a layout in 15 minutes like you're going to sit and watch this. It is a lot of coming back and visiting, sometimes even some of my more elaborate two-page layouts. I even have been known to leave for a day or so. I take them over to the side of my craft table where my sewing machine is. I leave them there. I come back and visit them, and you would be surprised how much clarity comes in just waiting. Something that I just struggle with over and over again, if I revisit it a day later, an hour later, 5 hours later, it's just something about coming back to it, then it just all just fits into place. I just have aha moments and everything just goes together so well. So I decided to kind of leave in the whole embellishment and trying to decide where things go so you can kind of see the process. At this point in the video, I've pretty much figured everything out. So I am just adding some 3D foam tape to the back of these. Because if you recall, I do have 3D foam behind my photo. So these elements that are going off the side of my photo, if you add 3D foam tape to them, then they're kind of all on the same level in the end, if that makes sense. And I've even been known to kind of double up on some foam tape. So you see that after that S in Christmas, I did add that little bitty present, which I thought was the perfect little touch. And then the sketch does have a strip going down the left side. So I have just cut a tiny strip of that red that I mentioned using, and I am just going to adhere a little piece up at the top and a little piece at the bottom. And I'm really surprised on how much that adds to the layout. And even though this is Christmas, that chair is as orange can be, but I think the red really looks good. Now for my journaling lines, I do have a gold metallic marker, but I just kind of marked on a scratch piece of cardstock to make sure, number one, it was still good. Number two, to see how gold it was. And it, again, kind of like the chipboard pieces that I used, just added that extra vintage feel. So there was this little acrylic piece that says holiday cheer. Yeah, holiday cheer. And so I really wanted to use it. So I've decided to just add glue dots to the bottom of it. And then I'm going to tuck it up at the top. And I was surprised at how the holiday cheer is still legible, um, even though it's got that fern pattern paper behind it. So I definitely want some little red dots. So I pulled out liquid pearls. You can see I mess up royally there. So I tried to clean it up like I do my stickles. But pearls are totally different. There's no cleaning that. It immediately seeps into your cardstock. So I'm just going to finish adding those little dots. I mess up again, and then I decide to go big. And then I have an idea to just go big on that one that I messed up. So I'm just going to add another big one and then a small one to kind of even it out. And that, for the most part, is my layout. I really love how it turned out. I'm glad that I got it down on paper using this sketch. And don't forget that there will be several other girls playing along with today's sketch. I'll leave all the links down below, as well as any links to any of the products that I used, so you can go grab them if you'd like. As always, thank you so much for stopping by and watching. If you liked what you saw, leave me a comment and a thumbs up. And as always, I would love to have you subscribe.